All right. Well, we are back with another episode. I hope all of you guys are doing great. Hello, Philip. How
Hi,
are
Brian.
you?
I'm all right, man.
What's
How are
going
you?
on? I'm doing great. I'm
Yeah?
doing great. I'm excited today. We're gonna tussle. We're gonna go back to a little bit of school day info. Some changes of some
I think
school districts.
Yeah, I think tussle is the right word if we're going back to anything involving my school days. So
Yeah, we got a great show for you guys. So let's get started.
Welcome to Neighbors Don't Knock, the show that brings you hilarious, unapologetic conversations only these neighbors can have. Join them and guests in their weekly mission to expand the neighborhood. Now, here's your hosts, Brian Chambers and Philip Goffrey.
What's going on, guys? Hello, all you loyal neighbors out there, you new neighbors or you wanna-be neighbors.
yeah, and hi, Heidi.
Hello, that's the name of our camera, or at least our primary camera.
Cam A is Heidi. I didn't know that until today. This fine gentleman informed me that camera A is
It just
Heidi.
came out. It just came out. But we have a great show for you today. We are going to get into a little bit of school day changes that are happening for some school districts here in Texas. Also,
Deep in the heart of Texas.
I know. Don't forget to make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on any of your audio devices.
Indeed. You know he's serious about that, too, because he gives you the politician finger.
I know. I try to not do that. I know it's a very
I
aggressive.
thought about a pencil, like a Bob Dole move, you know?
But we want to expand the neighborhood, and you guys can do that. Also, you can help with supporting the show by going to our podinbox.com/neighbors don't knock and leave us a voice message or audio message that can end up on the show. Your neighbor stories, advice, anything you want to share with us, comments about the show. And, we'd love to hear from you. But
We like thinking about what you think.
do we?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Camera's still rolling. This is not a clip. I'm just
We
kidding.
do.
Just
It's
kidding. We
true.
do. We like hearing from you guys. But today we are going to make sure that we get into a little bit of the school discussion. Also, at the end of the episode, our famous neighbor tweets.
Infamous.
Infamous? Famous? Infamous? Okay. Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. So, yeah. So we're going to jump right in. Okay. This North Texas school district has just approved moving to a 4-day school week. Okay, this is adding to apparently a statewide trend, which I wasn't aware of this statewide trend. And it says more, just according to ABC 8 in North Texas, more districts across the state have been moving to a 4-day school day week. This is in Anna, Texas, and it's a pilot for, I think they believe it was voted on for about a 3-year
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
right.
experiment.
The Anna one is a 3-year run.
Yeah, starting for the 2023-2024 school year, which would basically mean that kids are in school from Monday to Thursday and have 4-day weekends every week.
3-day weekends.
Or sorry, 3-day weekends every weekend. Thank you. So this, obviously, they would have to adjust calendars and school vacation days and things like that. But it is apparently been voted on, and it yielded a 72% of parents and 87% of staff in favor of the adjustment. I'm not shocked that 87% of the staff is in favor of this.
That's weird.
I mean, I mean, it's like, wait, I don't have to work an extra day. Oh no!
You know when they sat down for the vote, you had the one teacher like, y'all messing with me, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Everyone say aye.
Well, okay. So this is interesting to me because we've talked about for the 4-day work week. In fact, Joe Sanak, one of our previous neighbors that stopped by, had a book that he did and talking about the 4-day work week. So
yeah. In fact, if you want to hear that episode, that's back in our 4th season. That one was titled Thursday is the New Friday.
Yeah. A great episode, and a shout out to Joe. Hope you're doing well. It's very interesting that we talk about this with school because I know it's different when you're talking about work week because as adults and as you get older, you have more responsibilities that stack up. So they just keep going. And of course, we have a lot of us, I personally feel, a lot of us as adults struggle with time management. I think it's a larger population that struggles with that. Not just now, there are some that are great with it. I'm not saying that I'm great with it. I think I can manage my time pretty well, but even still, I don't do a great job with it. But moving this into a 4-day school week, teachers aside, let's start with the kids. And you having a daughter, are you for this?
I was reading about this because my instinct sort of when you first brought this to my attention was to be like, what? That's crazy. But as I read more and more about it, there are some arguments that make sense to do this.
Okay.
Now, if you look at it from the kids' perspective,
let's look at it from the kids' perspective.
yeah. So I think that, I mean, obviously all the kids are going, yay, right? This is great. But I think that there's a lot of wasted time in schools. And I can see them being able to truncate some of the fluff that we've built up over the generations now into a 4-day school week.
I mean, wasted time as in like extra recess, like a second recess?
No. I don't so much mean the breaks per se. I think that they've just taken to trying to cram too much into the school day, and they can trim some of the fat out. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like the curriculum has become a little bit too lofty, in my opinion.
Let me ask you this then. What would you say to people that argue the point that they're teaching the state tests and not teaching curriculum?
Well, I think that's part of the same problem, right? Is that the testing methods are built just to come up with some kind of a scorecard to make it look like you're doing a good job, and it doesn't actually give the kids much real world education. But I think that you can trim some of the curriculum down without having to really have that be part of the discussion, right? That's a different discussion.
I can see that, but I mean, when you say things like trim it down, not to me, those are more negative trigger words or as if I were a parent saying, okay, we're trimming down, so now we're having less time in the class to get through material and having to stack this. But again, we did, in all fairness, as kind of conceding to some of your points, they did mention that it would change the calendar of how they would structure the school year, which you would have to, because you can't keep the same.
No, for sure. Everything would have to change.
Challenge.
Yeah, everything would have to change. And maybe it even cuts a bit into summer break, which I think would be a good thing. I think summer break is actually a bit weird and a bit too long for kids. I'm sorry, kids. I don't mean to offend you. I know. Don't lynch me when I go outside.
I'm just going to say this right now. I didn't have a fall break. I had Thanksgiving. We had like 2 days for Thanksgiving. Of course, the holidays, Labor Day weekend, and then Christmas break.
Yeah, we didn't have a fall
that was it. And then,
either.
of course, we had spring break in the spring, and then summer. We didn't have this fall break in October, or I don't know when it was, and then certainly didn't have a full week for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I feel there's a lot of school districts or a lot of schools that have more, or at least to me, feels like there's more holidays built in, and maybe do you think that's maybe why the reason?
I don't know. I mean, specifically to the summer break thing, the reason why I bring up summer break is because we're one of the few countries that has a gigantic summer break in the first place. And really the only reason why it came to be is because it was growing season, right?
I believe France takes like a month off, though.
You can't use France. Again, to all my European friends, no offense, but France and Greece and Spain, all three are off the table for this conversation. I'll give Italy some slack, right? Why? And that says a lot.
Hey, man, they must be doing it right somehow.
Yeah. They're all smiles. They're all smiles.
And when I say like take a month off, that's not just school kids. That's like everybody.
Yeah.
It's like the whole country's like, yeah, we're gonna close France down for the month.
Yeah. They're all smiles, but you'll notice they're not exactly sending anybody to the moon either. So it's a bit of a catch-22 there. But no, the summer vacation thing came because we're a farming country, and it was growing season. Right, then that's not the case anymore. I mean, obviously, we're still a massive farming country, but industries have adapted and grown, and the school system really hasn't adapted and grown with them. So I can see cutting into summer a little bit. But I was talking, Brian, more about find me a group of 100 parents that think it's a good idea that their kids reading like Ethan Frome.
I had to read Ethan Frome.
I did too, and it damaged me for life. I'm still mad at you for making me read Ethan Frome.
A little Red Badge of Courage in there too.
No, Red Badge, that can stay.
Oh, that can
Yeah,
stay.
that can stay.
Okay.
Ethan Frome just
Are we
gotta go.
nixing Dr. Seuss? I mean, some schools have.
That's a whole different conversation.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Don't
So
get me started on
you
that
start
one.
but the thing is, anytime you start major changes like that, it becomes a snowball effect. So not to get off topic with the curriculum in the schools, because that's not the topic that we're talking about. You're right. That is for another day. But
Frome.
but the same thing that I will argue that parents are excited for this because it could potentially allow kids, as you're arguing, to be more productive. What about the parents that have to work and that kids are in school 5 days a week and they don't have or have to pay for childcare now?
Yeah.
Or the school's covering childcare. Now, I believe that I was reading up if it's fourth grade or younger, you could send them to school, or this is only to a certain grade level or something like that. But still, if you have kids that are from, let's say, fifth grade to ninth grade, right? Or let's just say to seniors, right? We'll say fifth grade to 12th grade. They have a 3-day weekend. Obviously, when you get into high school, you can self-take care of yourself, but you're talking about younger kids that need supervision or don't have any childcare, or a parent that has no way of dealing with that becomes a problem.
Yeah, and I don't have a good argument for that, Brian. I really don't, because I can see how that's a huge problem for a lot of people. I mean, heck, it would be a problem in my household, let alone people that have, more than one job for each parent in a household. I can completely understand that. And obviously they're going to have to come up with some kind of a way to balance it out, like you're talking about. Maybe like the lower grade levels at least have an option for sending the kids to some kind of a program.
We're not, the modern world that we live in today, right? It's acceptable, and most families have, our parents are both working.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's very typical these days.
Yeah. NISD is joining not one, not two, but 50 other Texas school districts that have gone this route. And they tend to be in rural communities, not so much urban communities, which makes a lot of sense to me. One, because less aimless kids by the masses running around, right? And two, they've got financing problems. But when I looked at this, I thought, God, how can that be? How can 50 different school districts in Texas be adopting this? I came across some interesting articles, one of which was in the Wall Street Journal. And it turns out that nationwide, this is a trend. Depending on which article you read, there are anywhere from 660 to 800 school districts in the U.S. that have gone to a 4-day school week.
Well, I mean, okay, if you're looking at from a cost perspective, I can see.
Well, it says something, right?
Well, because you're going to be cutting, like a lot of those programs, like the before school breakfasts and lunch, and the making sure all kids are fed and things like that. It cuts down on that cost. Now what I would be interested is to see, does it affect teacher salary? Now, jumping kind of the other side of the coin too. Now we're talking finances and cutting things. Are you paying teachers less now?
It's a very good question. I do know that a lot
do you think they're gonna take less money for that extra day?
Of course they will. No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
let's be honest.
They won't be happy. They won't be happy that they have to keep to the 5-day week.
Yeah.
But they'll be even more miserable or more upset, I feel, if you have to cut their pay, even though they're working 1 day less.
Well, we can be honest with each other, and I think honest with our audience, that we can all agree that teachers in this country are underpaid for the nature of the job.
I agree with that. Because these days you have to be like a self-defense, expert.
There's a lot.
Have to be a paramedic, almost a semi-paramedic person. You have to have training, and you have to basically have Navy SEALs training these days to be a teacher.
But I also think that we can all agree that not all teachers deserve the job. And there's something interesting in that, because if you read these articles about why these school districts are going to a 4-day school week, most of them will mention that they're having trouble retaining teachers. The teachers are jumping ship. What are they jumping ship for? Well, they're jumping ship for districts that have 4-day schools.
Well,
so it's become a bit of a snowball problem.
Or more money,
Or more money.
Yeah.
But also, if you look, a lot of these districts that are doing this, they don't have the funding that they need to stay competitive. So it speaks to a bigger problem, but a 4-day school week might be a perfectly viable solution
I'm not
to
gonna
stop
lie.
that bleeding.
I'm not gonna lie. It is enticing because like we said before, we talked about a 4-day work week. We could be more productive. But do you feel let's sit that into their shoes. Do you feel work week as a teacher or professional, if you had a 4-day work week every week, would you be giving more time to yourself, or would you just be finding time to fill in other things that you didn't get to in those 4 days?
Well, what's the difference?
I mean, you'd still be quote unquote working, even though you're not at.
Well, I'm
work.
not gonna take my additional weekend day to go meditate all day long. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the difference really is, but yeah, I think that it's a problem if the schools adopt this and then use it as an excuse to increase the outside of school workload for the students. Then that would be a really big problem, because I actually believe that we have a retarded amount of homework as a society for most of these kids. I think that, there's something like, on average, like a good student spends 4 or 5 hours every single night after school programs, after sports, working on homework. So that's crazy. And if they try to pile more on, I think that'd be even more crazy. I think that it would be really interesting if money is the driving factor behind this, if they're trying to retain better teachers and entice teachers to come in by adopting a 4-day work week for teachers. I think it would be very interesting if they offer the students incentives to do things like improve the school, get involved in programs that would, benefit society, rather than just saying, okay, you have a 3-day weekend, go do with it what you will.
Well, I mean, if you're increasing or changing the calendar, I should say, so that you're there throughout the year more, which I think is actually kind of a cool thing. You're changing all kinds of programs at that point too.
Of course.
So especially those that are in season for sports or certain other activities. So those all change. So you may have a point. It may allow students to get involved with other, theater, arts, other things like that maybe they wouldn't be because they were playing sports or doing other things. So I look at that as a positive, but I also look at that as the money's you're not really saving a lot of money because you're doing the 4 days. So maybe now they claim it's for the benefit of the students, but I really feel it's for the benefit of maintaining the teachers.
I think it is too. I think that's the real argument behind it. And that's why I'm looking at it with maybe a bit more of a positive spin, or even playing devil's advocate about it, because I think that from a operation standpoint and a finance standpoint, it all kind of makes sense if you're trying to give good work incentives and cut costs. For the students, I don't know. I think it'd be way too young to even know. We'd have to have years of testing before we really knew how it affected the students. I will say, Brian, though, that you were talking about not necessarily saving money. I think you still would be, because if you go to a 4-day school week and then offer things on the 5th day for students to do, you still don't need a full staff.
Well, I mean,
right?
That's
so even if you can cut your staff by 50%, that's required on that day.
Maybe. You don't know if you need a full staff at that point.
Fair. It's also going to depend on the school and the district.
Exactly, because some of these districts have a large amount of kids. And again, if you have kids that need after-school daycare or another day, or somewhere to go, right? You can't just hire, the weekend crew to come in for like 3, now you may be right. You may not need an entire full staff, but it's all going to depend. But all those programs that you're going to change or either increase or prolong might increase those budgets in those areas.
Maybe. And people are always going to take what they can. So one of the risks that I think that you're alluding to, and I think you're right, if you look at, for example, the sports that you bring up, you as a coach know this. If you're working in a sports program, and anyone who's ever dealt with sports in a public education environment or any education environment know this.
It never stops.
The people, it never stops. And the people that are running the sports program are going to take whatever they can, right? They're going to take as many hours as they can. They're going to take whatever budget they can. So yes, you do run the risk of maybe ballooning other budgets and then shooting yourself in the foot from the very beginning. But I don't know, man. If we go back to the students, though, for a second, if you think back to Simon and Garfunkel, right? If you think back on all the crap you learned in high school, it's just, there's stuff you can cut out of this.
I'm not arguing that. I agree with you, but I will argue this from the, I guess more. I'm not a parent, but from more of an adult point of view of the kids, and having taught before, and worked with kids in schools, I think it's important for them to have somewhere to go.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the structure in that regard is important. So I do think these districts need to come up with something that's not just a complete blow-off day, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be
That's what
maybe the
I'm
community
scared
gets involved.
That's what I guess I'm scared, but that's what I would worry as a parent if this were going to be successful, that there would have to be something or something that could be offered. Because honestly, I've seen kids in school that they get involved with certain programs or after school things, and giving them that time to be there is so beneficial. And if they didn't have that, who knows?
Yeah, it is hard to argue against that. I
You know?
have got nothing against that.
I mean that's my one big thing with it. Now, as someone, if I was a teacher currently in a school, then I would absolutely be excited as long as my pay wasn't cut. So I would be in that boat too, because no one wants to lose money on this. But and maybe it balances out. Maybe you're saying you extend the calendar so those summer days that all the teachers get off, you can't take a 2-month vacation anymore.
Right, we'll give you a 3-day weekend, but your summer vacation is now a month.
Now you're
right?
to 2
Instead
weeks
of
like
whatever.
everybody
Yeah.
else, right? You get your allotted 2 weeks.
I wouldn't mind seeing that too, because you do bring up the problem with daycare and childcare that parents can face with this. Well, I mean, summer vacation is a big problem for a lot of parents out there. I see parents struggle every single year trying to figure out what to do with their kids, and that's why summer camps and all that.
the people throw
so huge.
Well, and again, now
It's huge money.
it is a lot of money. So now, and again, when you start affecting people's bottom line with camps and summer programs and things like that, it changes other things, and you're gonna have now. Again, you can't. It's hard to argue with a school district when their point of view is, we are doing this for the kids. And as long as that's the argument.
Yeah, indeed. I think we've seen.
I think it's hard to really, it's hard to go against that and win.
Indeed. I think we've seen in current events, right, in the news cycle, that these school districts have managed to create quite a bit of power for themselves. It is very difficult to go against them and to make an argument that they'll listen to. But I will say, man, if it's really true, if between 660 and 800 school districts around the country have adopted this program, maybe there's something to it.
We shall see. Well, we'll pose that question to you guys. What do you guys think? Should schools go to a 4-day school week? I mean, whether you're a teacher, a parent, or a student yourself that happens to be watching this.
Yeah, and should they keep inflicting Ethan Frome onto poor young minds?
And with that, we'll take a word from our sponsor. Neighbors Don't Knock is produced by C&G Communications. C&G specializes in small batch voiceover and video production for commercial media, podcasting, radio, and more.
Combining years of experience in podcasting, acting, and sales, C&G offers big media products at small business prices.
That's right. To learn more, visit their Facebook page or email them directly at admin@cngcommunications.com.
And now, back to the show.
All right, so our next segment is becoming one of my favorites. Are you ready?
I am.
It is time for Tweets with Neighbors. Okay, so this week with neighborly tweets that we have found, I found 2, scouring Twitter, finding helpful, disgraceful, or just plain hilarious tweets
I like
by neighbors.
Disgraceful tweets.
There's a couple. There's a couple. But we today's 2 winners. All right. So one, this is from @Olivia P. Dan. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce that right. Olivia PD Andrea. Okay. She says, my Alexa was playing, in quotes, not loud when I got home from work, and I was left with a petty note from the only neighbor I've ever had a problem with. Should I leave on only bebop songs for my shift tonight? ? And she posted a poll. 100% of people said yes, F her. 0% said, Olivia, stop.
Okay, so hang on, Olivia.
so-
Let me interject a little bit here. So, one, I'm sorry that you have a passive aggressive neighbor leaving you notes. That's not the way to handle neighborly conflicts ever. And we at Neighbors Don't Knock certainly don't condone passive aggressive behavior. However, one,
It's kind of the same what she's doing back to her.
exactly, you're reacting with a passive aggressive response. Two, can we please, as a society, insist that we don't say things like "I left my Alexa on"? It's not Alexa. It's not Siri. Okay, you have a smart speaker. You have a speaker that you left on. You left your stereo on. That's what it comes down to.
I can see this really getting to you.
It does. It does. Because I hear it all the time. I hear, oh, I told my Siri this. Oh, no, you didn't. There is no your Siri. It's a smart speaker that accepts instructions to
You know, as soon
an
as you
AI
buy
system.
your own Apple product, Siri is individually yours. Like, it's like Siri has babies and then they give everyone their own little Siri
Yeah,
baby.
but if I'm bumping to my bebop on my home pod, I'm not like, oh, I was playing my Siri, So let's just get that out of the way. But I don't know. If you hate your neighbor, sure, crank it up, baby. Do it.
You're all for.
No, but
Oh, yeah, so no. Okay,
obviously
no.
everybody
Well,
else. I figured I would jump on the bandwagon here. Yeah,
You're
of
not
course you
gonna-
should crank up your stereo. No, be a good neighbor. Turn your music down. What's going on here?
Wow, yeah, because I feel like that she's gonna find a brick through the window or something, and
Well, exactly.
and with a note that's saying I turned it off.
Yeah, people don't understand that passive aggressive behavior is what
It
leads
escalates.
to road rage.
Yeah, or house rage. I don't know what's the proper word.
Some
With
disgruntled mailman's
neighbor
gonna
rage.
go crazy.
Yeah, so please don't let neighbor rage build up.
Neighbor rage. Ooh,
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so
coined here.
that's right. So Olivia, we wish you well with that.
Yeah, good luck with your Alexa.
Yes, I would be happy to hear how the outcome is after that little altercation is complete. As we move on, so this is from Walt Williams. So at Walt D. Williams,
Oh,
he says,
yes, Mr. Walt D. Williams.
every few months, my neighbor's kid is like, "I'll challenge you to Mario Kart," and as a reasonable adult, I know I should let them win. The problem is, it's just really, really funny when they lose.
Wow, Walt.
So,
Wow.
Walt, your neighbor's kids, man. I hope you guys are very close, because it is a little rough, and I'm speaking on this. I'm torn on his decision on this. I really am, because the competitive side of me wants to win a lot.
Well, first of all,
and hates to lose, even to kids, right? I'm one of those, I just drop the control and let me go out, like,
Yeah.
right? I haven't played a lot of video games recently, but I know Mario Kart, man, and I know these days.
I know Mr. Mario
I know
Kart.
some Mario Kart, and I know it's hard to lose. I know it hurts. It hurts to lose, but you're also not the one that has to see that kid cry or throw a temper tantrum when you leave.
That man makes a good point. And also, well, you can't be that close to your neighbor if you're tweeting about it and not worried about your neighbor reading it, right? My neighbor's kid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So now, and also, I guess, Walt, you're now teetering on a little bit of creepy.
Yeah. Well, here's my neighborly advice on this one, Mr. Walt D. I say let them win 3 times consecutively and then thwap, put them back in their place just every 4th game.
So now you're suggesting to hustle the kid.
Yeah.
So
Every day
don't
I'm
put any
hustling.
money on this game. That's all I
What
gotta
if they're
say.
hustling you, Walt? What if they're waiting for you to get a little too confident and all of a sudden they do put some skin in the game?
Oh, that would be juicy.
Kids are crafty.
That would be very, very juicy. I mean, I've heard them. I mean, I'm sure there's video game tournaments all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They might just be testing out their skills.
Every day I'm hustling.
So I don't know. Walt, this one's kind of on you. As long as, I guess, your neighbor's kids' parents are okay with this going down. I hope you're just not like
neighbor's kids.
the only thing that worries me with this tweet, and again, this is just a tweet. It's we're obviously assuming a lot of things here, but it's just the way it's put out there. It sounds, Walt, like you're just rolling over to your neighbor's house and just to go play video games.
Yeah, well,
So that's
do you happen to be a teacher in a
that's my big-
4-day work week
yeah.
district? Like, how much time do you have to go play Mario Kart, bud?
that's my bigger concern about
I think
that.
Walt's retired.
Maybe based on the picture, I don't know. So, all right. Well, we wish you luck, Walt, with that. Solving that problem.
Indeed. Avoid those banana peels.
Yep, exactly. Let the kid win every once in a while, man. Just
3 times.
play it up. So, and that will do it this week. For Neighbor Tweets.
For our YouTube viewers, I'm really tempted to put an El Camino just rolling across the screen whenever I hear that. It's a lowrider.
Well, I think we've exhausted this one enough. Philip, I had a good time hanging out.
I did too. Thanks, Brian, for coming by. A bit of a serious one this time around, but I would like to hear your opinion on this. Please do comment. Let us know what you think about our neighbor tweets and about a 4-day school week.
Yeah. And make sure you guys like, follow, and subscribe. Go back and check out past episodes. Check out our YouTube channel. We'd love to connect with you there. There's some fun content. You never know which neighbors are going to stop by. And we do have some great guests coming by this season.
Indeed. Season 6 is chock-a-block full of good neighbors stopping by and great guests. So be sure to keep an eye out for more and more content to follow.
All right. So new episodes every Friday, guys, for these two neighbors. Peace
Out.